My name is Jason J. Rock Houston, and you're listening to Catechist Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.catechist.com. Tonight, our special guest is Jim Wootten, the bass player from the premier Los Angeles-based Led Zeppelin tribute band, Led Zep Again. How are you doing tonight, Jim?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Jason.
And now, like I said at the top of the interview here, you guys are kind of the premier Led Zeppelin tribute in the sense that, I just was recently reading that you guys were celebrating 30 years
Yes.
as a band last year. Now, have you been an original member, Jim, or did you come later?
No, I actually started in the group in 2001.
Wow.
So, yeah, this is my 18th year with the group.
Oh, that's pretty amazing in itself.
They started in 88, though.
Yeah, wow. That's pretty amazing in itself. Now, I'm also aware you guys had some pretty exciting things that have happened in the band's career. Last time I interviewed Swan, he was telling me that you guys were kind of backstage guests when they were filming in London the Celebration Day. What was that like?
Oh, man, that was an incredible experience. It almost, seemed like a dream. It was just unbelievable. We got the invitation from Jimmy's manager.
Wow.
To attend the show. And so, we really didn't know what to expect. We were just glad we were going to be in the building.
I mean, what an honor, yeah.
Yeah. When we got there, they said, go to this hotel and go up to this floor and to this specific room, and you'll get your wristband for this show. So we thought, okay, that's where we'll pick up our tickets. Well, we went over there, and they gave us an envelope, opened it up, and said, okay, here is your pass to the sound check / rehearsal the day before the show, and here is your pass to the after show party, immediately after the show.
Yeah. And let me ask you, when you guys were backstage there, because again, you guys are pretty authentic. I mean, especially your singer Swan looks a lot like Robert Plant. Were any of you guys mistaken for actual band members?
No, actually, that never happened.
Yeah.
It happens to Swan all the time.
Yeah.
Especially at airports.
Yeah, it's funny because, again, I mentioned you guys are the premier Zeppelin tribute, and I say that because you guys have kind of become the standard. And the thing is, a lot of people, I don't know if they realize, especially out here in LA, the tribute scene has kind of really become a big thing, and it's almost like, to me, rock and roll theater. Now, there's a half a dozen, Zeppelin tributes, and to me, if you're going to be a Led Zeppelin tribute, there's got to be something that really makes your band stand out. And anybody that's definitely seen any of your videos online or gone to a Zep Again show, you like the ad says on your Facebook page, I guess I'm quoting Jimmy Page here, but this is as close as a real deal as you guys are ever going to get to.
Yeah, I mean, we try to make it as authentic as we possibly can. Starting with the music, we try to be as accurate to the recordings and to the live performances as we can possibly be.
Yeah, and obviously you're doing this. Obviously, Led Zeppelin's had a huge influence on you. But let me ask you: was it the band as a whole, as far as their musical catalog, or was it specifically John Paul Jones being a bass player that had the biggest influence on you?
Well, I would have to say probably the band as a whole.
Yeah.
I remember when I was, I think I was probably in like 8th grade, I believe it was. Now, I had heard songs like Stairway, Rock and Roll, Black Dog, off of the 4th album. Those were the first songs that I ever heard from Led Zeppelin. But I'll never forget, my sister had just gotten the Physical Graffiti album.
Yeah.
And I woke up one time and I walked into her room and she was listening to Kashmir.
Oh, wow.
And my mind was completely blown. I mean, at that point I said, who are these guys? I want to hear everything they've got out. And so, bought all the records. And now my dad was a professional bass player.
Okay.
So he had basses laying around the house, and I really loved what I was hearing. As far as the low end on those records, I loved what John Paul Jones was playing. So that was the first thing I did. I said, Dad, I want to learn how to play, and I went out and got the Led Zeppelin Complete Songbook,
Wow.
and I just started working through it. And at the time that I joined Led Zep Again, I had already known 35 songs from start to finish.
Wow. Wow.
So it was a pretty seamless transition for me to step right into that group.
Now let me ask you, talk about, you joining the band that had been around for a few years prior. What was that process like? I mean, were you recommended for the gig? Did you hear they were looking for bass players? Was there an audition process?
Yeah, basically what had happened was Swan was singing in the band that was based in Ventura, California.
Okay.
And he wasn't really pleased with the musicianship of the players that he was with at the moment, and he actually broke off from them.
Okay.
And decided I'm going to start my own Led Zeppelin tribute. So I had met him one day. I was playing in believe it or not, a Neil Young tribute. I was playing bass in that.
Wow.
And he said, "Hey, do you happen to know any Led Zeppelin?" And I said, "Are you kidding? They're my favorite group."
Wow.
They were the band that inspired me to play in the first place. Yeah. And so he said, "Hey, what would you think about joining the group? I've got Steve Zukowski on guitar. I knew of Steve from Sheer Heart Attack, which was a very popular Queen tribute at the time.
Wow.
And then also Jim Kersey on the drums, who was very respected session player, played with the Mamas and Papas and a few other different great players. And so I was all over that. And when the first show started, we got the band together. It was actually a 5-piece. A lot of people don't know this, but the very first show we did, I was on bass, but we had somebody that played keyboards, mandolin, and rhythm guitar.
Wow! There you go.
So after that show, I talked to Swan and I said, "Now, do you want to keep it as a 5-piece, or would you like to, make it as authentic as we can, and I'll learn all the keyboard parts and mandolin and all of that?" And he said, "Can you do that?" And I said, "Yeah, I have enough keyboard knowledge where, I think I could really sit down and learn this material, and we'll just bring the keyboard songs in, as I'm able to learn them." So we let the 5th guy go. He wasn't very happy about it.
Yeah.
To this day, he tells me, you ruined my chance to meet Jimmy Page.
Wow.
Because we let him go, 3 years before Jimmy Page came to see us at the House of Blues in Hollywood.
Wow. And it's kind of amazing that, just your joining would have that kind of impact on the band. But again, we're talking about a band that's, today in 2019 has been doing it 30 years. And and bands that are at it, there's not a lot of tribute bands that have been doing it for 30 years. There's a few. And that, the longer you last as a tribute band, I think that speaks volumes about, not just the band's popularity, but you guys are doing something right. I mean, like with any bands, if you last for 30 years, bands either they kind of run their course, or they are not as popular as they once were. But you guys just, that's the thing. You keep getting better and better with age.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, it's really funny because I've been in the group, like I said, 18 years now, and it seems like it's been like a year and a half.
Yeah.
I mean, I've just had so much fun.
And 18 years, I mean, that's a lot of, that's several years to be with one act too. So, I got to tip my hat to you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, Swan has been in the group, I believe it's 28 years now.
Wow.
And he, just recently, 4 years ago, we brought in another drummer, Derek Smith, who is just unbelievable.
Wow.
He's probably the closest thing to John Bonham, you'll ever see on this planet. And he's 35 years old.
Yeah.
And our guitar player, who's been with the group now for 2 years, he's 40.
Wow.
So literally, those guys, once we retire, they could continue the group conceivably for another 20 years.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Now, speaking of the guitar player, I know the guitar player you guys had up until a couple of years ago, he's a pretty big part of the band. I don't know if you want to get into why he left, but I know that he kind of split off and has this kind of thing he does where it's like primarily a Jimmy Page tribute, and he calls it Mr. Jimmy. Have you had a chance to Have you had a chance to go see him, or do you guys still keep in touch?
I haven't seen them live because unfortunately all the time
you're always touring.
Yeah, we're always out playing ourselves. But we've spoken over the past couple of years. Occasionally just said hello, but unfortunately I've not been able to see his group. And the reason why he left when he did is because we were doing the live show recreations that he wanted to do. That was kind of how he wanted to present Led Zeppelin's music.
Okay.
Say, for instance, he wanted to do maybe The Song Remains the Same. The movie that came out, he would like to do that entire set list exactly like it was played.
Okay.
And we did all of those things.
Yeah.
We played the How the West Was Won show from 1972 from start to finish, and did the arrangements exactly like Led Zeppelin did them. But unfortunately, it didn't really translate well to the audience because, Dazed and Confused was like 30 minutes.
Wow, yeah.
And the crowd would get antsy, and they just didn't like that. I mean, in 30 minutes, you can play 6 Led Zeppelin songs.
Now, let me ask you, because I remember seeing ads, even just in the last year, where you guys have performed like The Song Remains the Same. I know what you're saying. It's like a special one-off event. It's not something you are always doing. But what has been response to when you guys do shows like that?
Well, there would be a lot of excitement, initially. We would wear the costumes and had all the same equipment and all of that. So, we pretty much, had all of that nailed. But the thing was, some of those songs, Whole Lot of Love is another one where they would break off and go into different, like old style rock and roll boogie medleys and stuff. And the crowd they just didn't seem to, really appreciate that at the end of the night as much as we wanted them to. As well as, the promoters from the shows, when you're playing a 90-minute show, they want you to do all of probably the most popular Zeppelin tunes in the catalog to, appease the audience. And so we talked to Jimmy about that and said, hey, we need to do that from time to time. And that's just something that he wasn't interested in doing.
Well, again, it's like I said at the top of the interview, there's half a dozen Led Zeppelin tributes, and so you got to do something to make yourself stand out. So, he's gone off and done his thing, and you guys continue to do what you've been doing, and I think there's room for both, definitely.
Absolutely.
And now talk about the catalog of music you guys play and coming up with a set list. Like you said, there's obviously you got to play the, hits, but is it hard coming up with a set list? I mean, do you like for example, do you ever throw in like a deep cut that you guys don't play too often?
Oh, sure. We do that all the time. We in fact, I'd say from show to show, there are 4 songs that we consistently play night in and night out.
Uh-huh.
Those would be Rock and Roll, Stairway to Heaven, Kashmir, and Whole Lot of Love. Those 4 have to be in the show every night. Other than that, though, it's pretty much fair game. I mean, we can literally do 2 completely different shows from night to night, so that when we do play 2 nights at a venue, a lot of the time people will come both nights because they know we're going to change it up so much.
Oh, that's cool. And now let me ask you, because again, the band's just got such a huge catalog of music to cover, and like you mentioned, Rock and Roll. That's always one of my favorite Zep tunes. I mean, to me, that's one of the greatest rock anthems of all time. And then they got a song like Whole Lot of Love, and then stuff that's real heavy like that, and then you get something like Stairway to Heaven. That's probably like one of the first rock ballads people ever heard. You get like Kashmir. It's got kind of an Indian influence, to it. So there's something for everybody in there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I know they have their whole catalog just represents so many styles of music.
And they even got blues stuff that is considered bluesy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they have quite a few blues tunes, particularly on the early albums.
Yeah, now you were telling me when we were getting ready the other day to set up this interview, I was asking, hey, Jim, what's your all-time favorite Zep album? You told me, well, it kind of goes, and you kind of mentioned Physical Graffiti already, but you're saying, well, it goes between Physical Graffiti and Led Zep too, and you kind of wanted to get into that, so I guess that'd be a good time to do that now.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Led Zeppelin 2 is my favorite album from a bass perspective, because John Paul Jones' bass playing on that album was absolutely masterful. I mean, he had, songs that he was just playing so melodically and creatively. Songs like Ramble On, What Is and What Should Never Be, the Lemon Song, which is like a bass solo from start to finish. It's just brilliant. And so that's considered to be one of the greatest rock bass albums of all time. For some reason, that particular one stands out above the rest. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff on all the other albums, but that one, from the first track to the last, is just brilliant.
I will kind of agree with you. I was kind of doing some research and preparing for today's interview, and I was kind of going over the two albums, and to me, Led Zep 2, it just has a lot of great classic songs, a lot of songs people heard of, like for example, you mentioned Thank You, Heartbreaker, Ramble On. Now Moby Dick, I mean, like you said, that's one of the things that John Bonham was known for. That was like his signature song. You go down the list and Bring It On Home. They got so many great songs on this one album, and I was interested to learn that this was the first album that Robert Plant actually got to contribute to the songwriting. I guess on the first album he was under contract from a previous band, and so up until Led Zeppelin 2 he wasn't able to write with the band.
Yeah, that's true. That's very interesting, isn't it? I mean, Jimmy Page, I think, was responsible for the lyrics on Zep 1. And
so it's kind of interesting to, knowing that, finding that out, and you can kind of see the progression of the songwriting, like from the debut to Led Zep 2, and you can kind of see, okay, this guy's now contributing to writing, so this is obviously his influence coming into it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and by 1975 with Physical Graffiti, I mean, that album recently celebrated, I think, its 50th anniversary, and those tunes, are you still hearing them on the radio? I think anything you point to in Led Zeppelin's catalog, the music has stood the test of time. Even though it's like from the 70s and early 60s, it doesn't really sound dated. It just sounds like, great music.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that contributes to the success of Led Zep Again, is the fact that even teenagers, when we have all ages shows, a lot of the time they could be anywhere from 40% to half of the audience, which very telling.
And think about this for a minute. People coming to your guys' shows, there are a lot of kids coming to your shows that were not even alive when Led Zeppelin was around.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I'm actually the administrator of our Facebook page.
Uh-huh.
And right now we've got I think about 435,000 likes or something on that page. Yeah. And so I go to look at the analytics from time to time and kind of see, well, who is our audience out there? And believe it or not, the biggest crowd, this is not surprising, the biggest crowd biggest audience of our band is men, which are between 45 and 54.
There you go.
That's 18% of our audience.
Wow.
The second most are boys between the age of 17 and 24. Mm-hmm. They're 12% of our audience.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I never would have thought of that, but now that you point that out, even when you look at a lot of classic like Zeppelin clips, on YouTube and stuff, you don't see a whole lot of chicks in the audience.
No, in fact, that's another thing. Our audience is 70% male. Wow. 70% male, 30% female. Okay. So, it's pretty interesting because I play in an Eagles tribute band as well.
The Long Run, is that the one you play?
Yeah,
yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, with that, the audience is 60% women, 40% men.
Wow. And while we're on the topic, I know from visiting your personal Facebook page, I see that you also play in a Carole King tribute, and I believe a Crosby, Stills and Nash tribute. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And see, so man, you are gigging all the time. I mean, Led Zep again, I know is your main gig, but
Yes.
and the thing is, these other bands are, I don't know if I want to say they're just as popular, but you guys, all those other bands are constantly got shows and stuff. So it must be hard to schedule shows and that in between all the bands.
Yeah, I have to be very careful, to schedule the other groups kind of around my Zep Again schedule because we're literally playing every weekend with Zep Again. And so a lot of the other groups, I have to play with them on Thursdays, Sundays, things like that, to kind of make it work.
Now, have you ever had the bright idea, or I don't know if you've ever done it yet, of like having a gig where you might play a gig where you're playing with tuba various bands?
Oh, yeah, I have done that before. I've done it with both the Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young group with Zep Again. And we did it last year with the Long Run and Zep Again. It's just that the styles of music don't necessarily complement each other as much as you would want.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we have group Queen Nation and Bonfire, which is a AC/DC tribute.
Now that's kind of interesting because, like, I might myself, like, if you guys had a gig like that with Led Zep Again and the Eagles tribute, because I'm a fan of both bands, I might go check it out. But have you got new fans, like maybe where people would go see you in one band and they find out you're in Led Zep Again, let's say, oh, you're in Led Zep, I'd love to go see that band, and you have people following you in all your various different projects?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. They'll come and see me in Zep Again and say, hey, wait a minute, you're in an Eagles tribute or Crosby, Stills, Nash. And so, a lot of the fans that follow Zep Again also follow my other groups as well. So I'm very fortunate about that. Yeah,
and now getting back to Led Zep Again, I wanted to ask you, because we brought up Jimmy Page a couple of times and how he's endorsed the band. Now, talk a little bit about the gig where you guys first met him when he first came out here to LA and he was seeing you guys for... how did that come about? Did he just show up at a show? Did he contact you guys saying he'd like to meet with you, or what was that process like?
Basically, the story I hear is that Ross Halfin, who is the photographer.
Oh yeah, I've seen
the photographer.
Yeah, I seen him like on VH1 back in the day and stuff. All those documentaries behind the music. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. He was with Jimmy, and Jimmy was in town for the NAMM show.
Oh wow!
And so he saw that we were going to be playing at the House of Blues on Sunset, and he said, "Hey, I have a band that I want you to go see tonight." So they called the venue and secured the VIP area for him.
Wow!
And the funny thing is, Jason, is that the promoter of the show, who we had dinner with that night, told us. He told us, hey, by the way, Jimmy Page is coming to the show tonight.
He's probably like thinking, yeah, right?
That's exactly what we thought. We thought this guy's out of his mind. That never happened. Never. And I'd say probably about 5 songs into the set, our tech, the guitar tech, put a note on the drum riser that said Page in the house.
And you're like, okay, what's going on?
Well, the thing is, he put it on the guitar player's side, so I had no idea.
Yeah, oh, wow.
I didn't even know he was there.
Yeah.
I had no idea. So we get to the end of the night, and we go off stage, and the crowd was calling for an encore, so I asked the stage manager, is it okay if we do one more? And he says, yeah, but I'd make it a short one because Jimmy Page is up in your dressing room wanting to meet you guys. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
That just floored me.
Come all the way from England to Los Angeles.
Exactly. I know. We were just, I couldn't believe it.
Wow,
We
wow.
just could not believe that was happening. And so we played the fastest version of rock and roll you could imagine.
Yeah.
And literally ran upstairs, walked into the green room, and it was like, the heavens had come down.
Wow, I bet.
It was like the guy just glowed. It was like, oh, man, this is incredible. It was unbelievable, to actually meet the guy who had written and produced all of this music. It was, just an indescribable feeling.
And I gotta say, that's like the ultimate compliment for the simple fact that I know back in the 80s, like Robert Plant was like, he really thought David Coverdale and Whitesnake, he called him, David Cover Version. He thought he was ripping off what Zeppelin was doing. And so the fact that, Jimmy or anyone from a band would kind of really endorse, of all things, a Led Zeppelin tribute, that again speaks volumes of a band's talent, because for him to really compliment you guys and really endorse you to that level that he has, that's really special.
Yeah, it was. I remember him saying, he said, he goes, you guys, he goes, you weren't just playing the songs. He goes, you were like really inside the music, meaning, our attention to detail. He recognized, and the guitar player, Steve Zukowski, said, well, we've heard the songs a few times.
Yeah. And getting back to being a tribute band, I always enjoy, for the most part, going to see tribute bands, because I've been doing it for a long time. And the thing to me is if you go see a great tribute band, it really is rock and roll theater. So much to a point, since we're talking about Led Zep again, somebody coming to see you guys for the first time, it might bring back, especially the band looking the way they do. You guys are real authentic. You wear the same type of stage clothing. Like you said, you really got the songs and everything, the look down. People seeing that for the first time, it might take them back to when they heard their very first Zeppelin song, or the very first time they, experienced Led Zeppelin or got a Led Zeppelin album. And then, at the same time, people that are diehard fans, you might play like a deep cut, like you said, that they've never even heard of, and they're like, oh, that's a Led Zeppelin tune? Oh, yeah, I heard that already, but I never knew who did that, So you guys got all kind. You're exposing, people to stuff again that, maybe that they haven't thought about for, the very first time, like I said, they heard a song on the radio. That's got to be a great feeling, knowing that you're doing that for people.
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny. You should mention the deeper cuts. I remember one time we were playing, actually at the House of Blues. On Sunset, it was on another occasion. And the third song we played was a song off of the third album called Out on the Tiles.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that song?
Yeah. Again, it's one of those songs that people might have heard before, and they'd probably be surprised to find out it's a Zeppelin tune,
Yeah, exactly. Well, the promoter, after the show, he says, hey, yeah, that third song, so you managed to throw in an original, huh?
Yeah. Wow. And, obviously, the fact that you play in all of these various tribute bands, like I said, Zeppelin and Eagles, Carole King tribute, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, that also speaks volumes. It shows that you're a very experienced musician, because, for one thing, a lot of people might say, oh, you're playing other people's music, but first of all, it takes a certain level of talent to be able to do that in musicianship, and the fact that you're not just in like 5 different Led Zeppelin tributes, but you're doing music that is vastly different, that shows that you're a well-rounded musician, and you could do more than just one thing, if you will.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I just love all of that stuff. From that era, I believe the 70s. Uh-huh. Of course, the Beatles were in the 60s.
Yeah.
The 70s just had so much great music. So many great artists. And, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Eagles, and James Taylor, Carole King. Yeah. I loved all of those.
That was a great time to be alive, and I'll tell you why, because, any of those bands that you've mentioned, the thing that made them such great bands to me is not just the song, but the songwriting. That's why that's what I think any successful band has to have, great songwriting, because, you could be a band that has like 5 great-looking guys, and you get up on stage in your jeans and t-shirts. But if you got nothing more than that, you're not going to go too far.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right about that. And it's funny of three of the groups that I play in, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. So I do the Graham Nash part in that group, and on the Eagles group I do the Randy Meisner, Timothy B. Schmidt, and then of course John Paul Jones and Led Zep Again. But I've been really fortunate to have met all of those guys.
Wow.
that I've
portrayed. Wow.
Yeah, and in fact, last year at the El Portal Theater in North Hollywood, our Eagles band was playing there, and Randy Meisner actually showed up.
Wow.
And was sitting there watching the show, and I sang his song "Take It to the Limit."
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's one of my all-time favorite Eagles song, and it's kind of. And I was watching the documentary they had on Netflix a few years back, and it's kind of interesting because what really led to him leaving the group was that song kind of just took on a life of its own, became so popular. He got so nervous having to sing it on stage every night, and but I mean that is a great tune. So talk a little bit about, because you're known primarily as a bass player, but what's it like when you're playing with the Long Run, you get up and you get the chance to sing lead on that?
Yeah, it's such a great contrast from what I do with Led Zep Again. Led Zep Again is just a very instrumentally intensive gig where you have to really be on it on several different instruments. The Eagles group is a challenge in another way, though. Just as far as coming at it from a vocal perspective, just trying to blend with the other guys, be really on with the harmonies, and then play all of the bass parts, as accurately as you possibly can. Yeah,
but I mean, do you really enjoy getting the chance to sing lead, and you enjoy singing much, or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love that part of it. That's a really cool part about that group, in that everybody in that band sings lead. So everybody kind of gets their moment to shine during the night.
That's what's cool about a band like the Eagles. I mean, I always enjoyed bands like that. The Beatles you mentioned, even Kiss, because you got more than one. Well, you got two guys that do primarily the lead singing. At one time, there was a band where all four guys could sing. Even in Queen, you had Roger Taylor that could sing. So I always loved bands like that. Now, let me ask you, getting back to the Eagles. A few years back, when Glenn Frey passed away and the Eagles were going to call it quits and they didn't play any shows for a while, did business get a little better, if you know what I mean, or what was that like?
It actually did. I mean, we did get booked quite a bit more that particular year, just because there was so much, interest around, Glenn Frey passing.
Yeah.
Same thing happened with David Bowie that year.
Yeah.
We know of a David Bowie tribute that had been playing, I'd say maybe once or twice a month here in the Southern California area. Bowie passed, and all of a sudden they're touring the world. They were touring the world after that. You may have heard of them. They're called Space Oddity.
Oh yeah. They're I would say they're kind of a premier now. There's a couple more Bowie tributes popping up now since he's passed on, but I would say they've probably been the longest running tribute to Bowie out here.
Yes. So they really
picked up business.
Benefited
and see, that's the thing, because Led Zeppelin is one of those bands too, but that's why a band like Led Zep Again has been able to last for 30 years, because Led Zeppelin has come and gone. They're probably never going to tour again or play live, although I'm starting to hear, I don't know if it's true, I'm starting to read stuff on the internet that they're planning to do a couple of shows this year. I don't know. We'll see what becomes of that.
Yeah, I know. It's funny because I just don't think Robert Plant is into that at this point in his life. He just seems to, want to move forward with the music and doesn't want to be a nostalgia act.
Yeah.
Well, that, and also the fact that his voice is just not up to singing that.
And he's getting up there in age. I mean, he's close to 70 something, I think, at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think he is 69 or 70.
Yeah.
So, trying to sing that stuff would just be so strenuous for him.
And Plant, out of all the remaining members, he's the most active now. As a Zep fan yourself, probably as most people know, the only thing Jimmy Page has done, he put out like one song, then he had the band, I think, The Firm with Paul Rodgers for a few years. Are you surprised that he didn't do more since Zeppelin?
Yeah, I am actually. I would have thought that he would have continued to maybe collaborate with other artists and continue to do it. But it's really funny when he came to see us play that night. The guitar player told him, hey, we would have loved to have had you come up and play rock and roll with us.
Yeah.
And he says, oh yeah, he says, I'm not able to do that.
Oh wow.
Anymore. At that point, I don't think he was even playing the guitar. But shortly after he saw us, which was January of 2004, he started to hear rumblings about him starting to play a little bit more and get back into it. And then
never become of it.
Yeah. 3 years later was the reunion.
And so obviously, you're mentioning that all the guys you portray, you've met every one of them now. We touched a lot on Jimmy Page because he's really endorsed the band. Now I got to ask you, what's it like go from being a Led Zeppelin fan? You joined this band that you've been in now 18 years.
Yes.
Go back to the day when they were, your invited guest at Celebration Day, and you meet the actual John Paul Jones. I mean, that had to be kind of the ultimate moment.
Oh man. Yeah, my friend Steve, who was the guitar player at the time, he goes, hey, I just heard that John Paul Jones is sitting over at the bar there. And I'm like, oh, God. I just, what? It's one of those things where I just got so nervous. Because he was basically, my bass idol. From the time I started playing. So, I just went over there and I just said, hey, I got to tell you, you were the inspiration for me picking the bass up in the first place. And, I just want to thank you for all the great music over the years. And he was very gracious and humble. And he took some, pictures with myself and my bandmates. And, if I could interview one rock musician,
that would be the guy.
He would be the guy. Because I just have so much respect for him, what he brought to the group, not only as a bass player, but as an arranger. His keyboard playing was, so interesting. He just approached things in a different way. And I always tell people, hey, if you didn't have John Paul Jones as your bass player, keyboard, mandolin player, you probably would have ended up with Black Sabbath's Light.
Wow, yeah.
Because any other bass player wouldn't have brought anywhere near what he had brought to the table, from a creative standpoint and just an arranging standpoint.
It's kind of sad because I guess maybe now he is these days because so much time has passed since Zeppelin. But initially it was everybody's like when you think of Led Zeppelin, Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, even John Bonham. Even though he was a drummer, but those three guys were such huge personalities. Do you think a lot of it had to do with just that he was such a quiet guy that he didn't maybe get the credit?
Yeah, I think so. And he's even alluded to that in interviews. He says, I've never been a guy that's wanted to go out and
be in the spotlight.
Draw attention to myself. I've just been the guy that's wanted to be kind of the glue guy back there, guy that just kind of held it all together. He said Jimmy and Robert were out front, and they were doing a great job as far as just keeping the crowd entertained. So that was another thing I respected about him, because that's part of this gig. I pretty much stand back by the drummer the whole night. And up until recently, you were kind of still the new guy. Now let me ask you, even just looking at your Facebook page, you're in a lot of pictures that says you help manage the band, you help do a lot of arranging. I know, and like you said, you're in charge of a Facebook page. So you're a big part of what the band's about these days. What was it like going from just being the new guy to kind of becoming Swan's right-hand man and, kind of having a lot to do with what's going on with the band? Well, I think, it was just kind of a natural evolution.
Progression, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because as, I remember the days when I first got in the group, and, we would be sending, newsletters out via snail mail.
Yeah.
And it was like...
What a difference the internet makes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the internet has just been an incredible advertising tool for this band. I mean, just having 435,000 people like your page, that means you're going to have a lot more reach when you post events and make people aware of where you're going to be. I mean, you have fans basically all over the world when you've got numbers.
And that's what a lot of people fail to realize about being in a successful tribute band. They might hear Led Zep Again, and a lot of people, they're just a tribute band, but they fail to realize the fact that the band has been around for 30 years. You guys have played in other parts of the world, not just the United States. You've gone outside of your little home turf of Los Angeles, California. You guys got a heavy reach, and again, I don't want to just tag you as a tribute band, but my point here is that a lot of people, they don't give these tribute bands the credit that they really deserve, because there's a lot more into just playing other people's songs that goes into what you guys do.
Yes. No, you're right. I mean, it's funny how people embrace you, and they almost react as if you were the original group.
And because for many of them, they're never going to get a chance to see Led Zeppelin. This is as close as they're going to get.
Yes.
It's like right. you guys are the legends now. You guys are 30 years into Led Zeppelin's career. You guys are the thing that legends are made of. They're never going to actually get to see the real band. That this is as close as they're going to get.
Yeah, you're right, and that's, people point to that all the time after the shows. They say, "Man, I never got to see, Led Zeppelin back in the day, but after seeing you guys, I feel like we have."
Yeah, how about you, Jim? When you were growing up, I don't know if you're that old, but do you get a chance to see the band back in their day?
Well, no, I actually had pre-sale tickets.
Wow.
To go and see them in 1980 at the Forum.
Oh, wow.
They were becoming in 1980, and then John Bonham passed.
Wow.
And so I never got the opportunity to see them until we got to see them in 2007.
Yeah, and that's the next point I was going to make. How cool is it to go from being a Led Zeppelin band to joining a Led Zeppelin tribute that has become this successful, that's been, the band's been doing 30 years total, but, and as a result of joining that little tribute band from Los Angeles, California, that's just kind of taken over the world,
yes.
For a guy that never got to see Led Zeppelin live, in their heyday, you're endorsed by Jimmy Page, you've met all the guys in the band, your band's an invited guest backstage to the last live CD, DVD thing they put out. I mean, that's the ultimate rock dream right there,
Oh, it's huge. It is. I mean, it is. It's almost seemed like one big dream.
Yeah.
From the time I joined this group, to see what has happened, to us from that point that he came to see the group. Yeah. Because shortly after he came to see us, he and his wife had a charity called ABC Trust, which was for underprivileged Brazilian children. His wife was Brazilian.
Okay.
And so he, within a month after coming to see us, his manager contacted us and said, "Would you guys be open to doing a charity benefit concert?
Wow.
You be we want you to be the house band, and we'll have guests come in and out throughout the night." We had, Paul Gilbert from Mr. Big.
Wow.
Nuno Betancourt from Extreme came up. Howard Leese from Heart.
Wow.
Bruce Kulick from Kiss.
Rock and roll royalty, man.
yeah, exactly. So we had all these guys coming up to perform with us, and it was such an honor that he would ask us to do that. And then when he contacted us about coming to the concert itself, it was just, I mean, you could have knocked me over with a feather.
Yeah, that's the point I'm trying to make here, is that a lot of people, they might, let's say, get the same offer to join a tribute band and like, oh no, man, I only do originals, but look at what you've been able to accomplish just, joining this one band. And if you had made, if you not decided to join the band, your life might have taken a different path. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. I can't imagine, what would have happened had I not joined this group, because it's been such an incredible run for me. I mean, the last 18 years of my life have been the best, by far. There's not even any comparison. So.
Now, I imagine, like a lot of musicians, there's a desire to do the original music thing, and I'm sure when you joined Led Zep Again, you thought, oh, maybe I'll just do this for a few years, and it's taken on kind of a life of its own. But besides doing all these other tribute projects, like I told you, I'm going to be interviewing Swan on Thursday this week, in about 2 days from now, and we're going to be talking about Led Zep Again, but also he recently released like a solo album. I was curious, would you ever have any thing doing that, like putting out a solo album of your own or anything like that?
I actually used to write music like in my early 20s. I was in a couple of different original acts back then. But as I got older and realized, putting so much time into writing music and recording it, now it's probably counterproductive, because, I just feel like, man, nobody's going to want to market me as I'm 50, I'm going to be 57 on Saturday, actually. Oh, wow. So, and I just figured, hey, right now I'm just very, very happy to be a working musician.
And there's something to be said that, because, again, to me, there's a difference between being in a cover band and a tribute band, and and both, definitely there's a place for both, but I kind of like what you guys are doing, in the sense that it's one thing to go see a band like just, let's say, do nothing but a Tom Petty, let's say, set of music, or they might throw in a Tom Petty song, do a Bon Jovi and Elton John, and again, there's a market for that, but I'm much into going to, like, again, what I call rock and roll theater, going to see a band kind of dress the part and look the part, taking people back to when Led Zeppelin was, the biggest band in the world, and they kind of still are, I guess you could say, to a certain extent. Sure. I'd much rather go see a show like that. So, but again, I think there's something, there's a market for both. But it's just fun. It's just amazing. Even in LA, where we're from, tribute scene is it's just taken off.
Oh yeah, and that's why I think the look is important to us to emulate that, because there are bands out there that play the music, that are cover bands, that are really, really good in my estimation. Yeah. But I think people want to see the whole thing. They don't want to be like, man, they don't. It's not like we don't want people to say, man, I closed my eyes and they sounded just like them. We want them to say, man, I was opening my eyes, they looked like them and they sounded just like them. So that's kind of our goal. We want to give people, the entire experience of coming to see Led Zeppelin. Yeah,
and you're making a good point about doing original music, because on one hand, if you make it doing your own original music, as a songwriter, and that there's money to be made, but let's be honest, the music industry is not what it once was. I mean, a lot of people don't even have a record industry. The only way you get a record label, the only way you're going to get a record out is you put it out independently, and
that's right.
That can go one of two ways, But so you've been able to make a living doing this, so why not?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I feel very fortunate to be able to do this for a living. I mean, it's one of those things. I don't feel like I'm being stunted creatively by doing it. Yeah. I just enjoy the music, and I love bringing joy to people that love listening to the music as much as I love playing it for them. Yeah.
So, And before we wrap this up, Jim, because I really enjoyed talking to you. I'm going to get ready to let you go, only because in preparation for this today, one of the last things I want to ask you about is I got online and I was kind of seeing what's going on with Led Zep Again. I see you guys in just a couple of days are going to leave for the weekend to perform on a cruise ship. Have you guys ever done anything like that? And then talk about how excited you guys are for that.
Oh, yeah. In fact, we've done probably, I'd say maybe anywhere from like 10 to 15 cruises now over the last, I'd say it's been over the last, 5 years. I think we started doing them maybe in 2014.
Wow.
And last year was one that stood out though. We played the Kiss cruise.
Oh, wow.
Which was, Kiss does a cruise every year where they're, they perform every night. And they have different acts that are playing throughout the week, and they asked us to perform. So we did, and the last night, Paul Stanley, Tommy Thayer, and the drummer Eric Singer were standing there watching the entire show. So we didn't get tickets to actually go see Kiss because normally they leave that for the people that are paying to be on the cruise.
Wow.
After Paul Stanley came and saw us, he came over to Swan and he said, "Hey, are you guys coming to see our show tomorrow night?" And Swan said, "Oh no, they said the other entertainers on the boat aren't going to be able to actually see the Kiss shows because it's just so packed." And he goes, "Oh no, that's not going to happen." So he got us tickets, and we got to go and see the group on the last night, which was really a thrill for us.
How cool is that? And the thing is, I know those Kiss guys, especially Gene and Paul, are major Zep fans. So I'm not surprised you guys got invited to take part in that. But another kind of interesting connection between Kiss and Zeppelin is they use the same producer, Eddie Kramer, on a couple albums.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And it's funny. They have. I don't know if you've ever been to a Rock and Brews restaurant.
Actually, I've been to two. I've been to one in Torrance, and then there's one now in Buena Park.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, the one in Highland actually has tribute acts every night of the week.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And when they did the grand opening for that a few years ago, Gene and Paul actually called our manager and said, "We want Led Zep Again to do the grand opening."
How cool.
So we did that, and they took pictures with us, and we got to talk with them, and oh man, it was a real honor and thrill to be able to do that as well.
Yeah, and of course these cruises are they're just the latest fad. If I mean, you hear things like the Monsters of Rock cruise, and they're getting bigger and bigger. But is it any different, like playing on a cruise ship versus like Save a House of Blues? I mean, you are out on the water. Is there anything that is it harder setting up the equipment? Anything extra that goes into it?
No, actually, for the cruise ships, it's actually a little easier because they provide all the backline equipment for us.
Uh-huh.
So we bring are our guitars.
Wow.
I bring a little sound module for the keyboard sound.
Okay.
We just hook it up to their equipment and we're ready to go. So it's actually quite a bit easier.
Oh, cool.
We're not lugging a bunch of gear around and stuff.
And now this cruise that you guys are getting ready to leave on, is it gonna be like going throughout the U.S. or is it guys going to another country?
Oh, we're actually we're flying out to Newark, New Jersey.
Okay.
And then we go from there into the Caribbean. We go to like St. Kitts, St. Martin.
Oh wow! How exciting!
The Bahamas. So it's pretty relaxing. It's definitely a nice perk of being in the group. I'll tell you.
And then now you were talking earlier about never actually getting to see Zeppelin in the day because you bought a ticket and then John Bonham had died. Let me ask you, back in 1980, what do you remember about like when you first heard the news that Bonham had passed? What was that experience like? And were you surprised that the band decided to call it quits instead of just finding another drummer?
Oh yeah, I'll never forget the day I heard it. I was actually practicing in my bedroom, listening to the radio, and then that announcement came on, and it just floored me. I was so upset, because that band had just meant so much to me.
Yeah.
And I was so, bummed out that I wasn't actually going to be able to see them live.
Yeah.
And I was a little surprised that they didn't go on, but when you look at it in hindsight, Bonham was such a huge part of that band's sound.
Yeah.
I don't know of anybody else who could have come in at that time and really been able to, replicate what he did in the group.
Yeah, the only possible guy I could think of that could have maybe done it would be Carmine Appice, because I know they were like best friends and they toured together. And he's a real physical guy, but again, as great of a drummer as Carmine is, I hear what you're saying. It would be just Bonham is one of those guys that just is irreplaceable, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then speaking of John Bonham, I was curious because another big thing in the Zeppelin world the last few years is Brian Tishy, who's a drummer. He's played with everybody from Whitesnake to the Dead Daisies. He has this annual event he puts on here in LA called the Bonham Bash. Have you seen any of those, or have you guys been part of any of those events?
Actually, Swan did sing at the very first one that they did.
Okay.
Years ago at the Whiskey, and Jason was playing at that one as well. But I haven't been able to go to any,
because you're always so busy,
Yeah, we've been playing, unfortunately. But I love what he's doing.
And then touching a little bit on Jason Bonham, have you guys ever crossed paths with him or anything?
Oh, yeah. He actually came to sit in with the group in 2009.
Oh, wow.
We were playing at, where else? The House of Blues Sunset.
Yeah.
And he was up in the VIP area, and he actually came down and played the encore with us, rock and roll. In fact, you can find that on YouTube.
Oh, okay, now, speaking about the House of Blues on Sunset, I mean, that must have been a pretty sad day when you guys hear it. They were closing up in that.
Oh, yeah, it really was. Because that place really meant so much to us, because that's where Jimmy had come to see the group. So
wow.
We were really bummed out when that one,
Yeah, talk about history.
This level.
And then I also seen online today, like on Amazon, I noticed I typed in Led Zep Again just to see if you guys had any music available up there or anything, and oddly enough, you guys did, but it's all streaming. Was that stuff you guys recorded from when you're part of that Access TV World's Greatest Tribute show?
Actually, it was prior to that we recorded all that music. I believe it was like 2004. We did the Zep Again 1, and then 2007, I think we did Zep Again 2, and then 2009, I believe, was Zep Again 3, and then we did a couple of albums with Jimmy Sakurai, who we had mentioned earlier.
Yeah, okay.
Both of those were called The Sound Remains the Same,
Volume
1 and 2.
And now, like I said, I saw a lot of this they had available on streaming, but if people want to get those actual like physical CDs, are there any more copies, or are they out of print?
Oh yeah. No, you could get a physical CD of those. Yes, absolutely.
And what's the best way? Like, can they go on your site, or if they come to a show, can they get one?
Yeah. Well, actually, if you go on the site, there's a merchandise link called Big Cartel. I believe you could get them there.
Okay.
But you can also find them on iTunes.
Oh, wow.
CD Baby.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah. In fact, we have. You were asking about like the Song Remains the Same performance.
Yeah.
We actually did that and recorded it.
Oh, wow.
So that's out there too. They had done 3 nights at Madison Square Garden, so what we called it was the 4th night.
Oh,
Madison Square Garden.
Again, another cool way to keep it original. Have a little special thing there. Now, again, I know, being that you guys are doing other people's music, there's a thing with licensing and that. But you guys are really so authentic. Have you ever thought about putting out a live DVD or something?
Well, the DVD, there's a lot more rights involved.
That's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we haven't done it, up till now. We haven't, delved into that. But, the live, we are planning on doing some more live
Recording.
audio recordings that we're going to put out.
That would be cool because again, for people that are fans of Led Zep Again, it's close you're going to get to, maybe it's as close you're ever going to get to a Led Zep Again album, but you guys recreating the songs. But I think people that go to your shows would be really into that.
Yeah, absolutely. They love it. They're all over it whenever we put those out. So,
well, Jim, I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule. I've enjoyed getting to know you, and the fact that you're involved in all these other tribute acts, maybe we could do a follow-up interview on any of those acts as well. But anytime you'd like to talk to me about Led Zep Again or anything related to any of the projects you're working on, please reach out to me. And this interview will probably be going up in the next week or two. I'll be sure to let you know once it goes up, and at that point, you guys are more than welcome to post an interview on any of your sites. So let's please keep in touch, okay?
Great. Thank you so much, Jason. I really appreciate you having me.
Okay, and enjoy the cruise, and good luck with that. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.